Hey everybody, Jon Easdon here from Anglers Covey, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Bug of the Month. On today's video, we're actually going to do a tying video on one of my favorite bugs. It's summertime, and I'm a huge stillwater geek, and one of the bugs I really think about and love to fish in the summertime on stillwater is the callibaetis mayfly. Now, callibaetis are a very important part of the trout's diet, and the trout around here, at least, they completely seek these things out and will just eat these things when they are active in the water. So today we're going to tie one of my favorite callibaetis nymphs. It's pretty easy to tie, and it's very effective. You can do a lot with it, a lot of different color variations. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife fly for sure. Today we're going to be tying for you Shane Stalcup's Gilled Nymph, and I hope you enjoy. All right, so we'll get started here. We're going to tie Shane Stalcup's Gilled Nymph. I'm going to start out with the hook, and today we're using the TMC 201R hook. This is a new hook from Umpqua, and easily my favorite hook that's come out in a long time. It's a heavy gauge 200R. This is a size 16 today, and the size that I like to tie this fly in most. You can tie callibaetis anywhere from 12 to 18, with 14 and 16 being probably the most prominent and most popular. And again, my favorite size is 16s. So I'm just going to start with some UTC 70 denier thread. You can use A.dot uni here in tan. You can use really any color you want. Callibaetis seem to be on the lighter side, and especially tying them. I've noticed even using this tan colorway primarily, when it gets wet it does get a little darker, but it keeps kind of that lighter profile that a lot of the callibaetis in our area do have. So I'm just going to start some thread there, kind of right in the middle of the hook. Next material I'm going to use here is just some UTC small gold wire. Again, you can use copper here, you can use a bunch of different colors. And I'm just going to tie this in on my side of the hook shank here, and tie this in rearward to where the bend of the hook starts to go down. Now, the next materials I'm going to use, and this will be for the tail, I'm going to use ostrich. I'm going to use two different colors of ostrich. So, first color is this tan ostrich, and I'm going to use this gray olive colorway. And I'm going to do three total feathers, two tan feathers, and then one of the gray olive. The reason I like to do this is it adds a little bit different color to the overall profile of the fly on the tails. So I like to mix in that that different color there, primarily being tan though. I'm going to measure those so all three feathers are the same length, and I want this tail to be pretty long. If you see callibaetis, they have rather long tails, so I want to mimic that in my fly pattern here. I'm going to measure these, transfer, and then I'm just going to bring up one nice loose wrap just to secure those guys. And then from here I can kind of look at it and make sure I like the length of those tails. And then with that ostrich, I'm going to lift it straight up, and I'm going to advance my thread ahead of that ostrich, basically to about that 3/4 point of the hook shank. I want a good gap between the eye of the hook and where I'm stopping this thread. And then from here, I like to actually wet my fingers, and then I'm going to twist all this ostrich. This blends the colors together very well. Really kind of makes the overall coloration of this fly pop when you do this. And then from here, I'm going to start right where I tied those guys in, and I'm going to wrap forward. These are going to be touching wraps. This thing's going to look really, really bushy. And that is exactly what I want here. Looks nice and buggy. I'm going to bring that up to where I stop my thread. I'm going to do a couple of loose wraps here just to capture that ostrich. Do a couple more in front. Come in and get rid of the ostrich here. This nice bushy profile. Now with my gold wire here, I want to counter wrap this, so I want to just go the opposite direction that I tied that ostrich in. And this is going to actually give it a little bit more durability by palmering this, or going the exact opposite direction that I put that first material in with. Clamps it down, makes it pretty bulletproof. And again, I'm going to go where I stopped that thread, do a couple, 2 or 3 loose wraps, helicopter off that wire. I'm good. The next step here is I want to take a pair of some really nice sharp scissors. I'm going to give this guy a haircut right on top. That looks good. What I want to be able to do is see that ribbing. Looking down on the fly, I want to be able to see that. That'll tell me it's going to actually be visible when this fly gets wet. Next material I'm going to use here is medallion sheeting in this buggy tan. This is really cool material. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a strip of this. And strip about that wide. I like to taper it, makes it a little easier to tie in. This stuff is really slippery, so when you do go to tie this in, you may need a couple times, but I like a very, very loose wrap to capture it. That loose wrap is usually the key, and I'm securing this in right on the edge where I had that ostrich, just like that. Next material I'm going to use here is some fine and dry dubbing. I'm going to use the callibaetis colorway. Again, this is a part that you can customize. You can make this all sorts of different colors depending on what you're seeing in the lakes where you live and fish. I love this callibaetis dubbing. I'm going to do a pretty good little noodle here. This is going to be my thorax. I'm going to start to tie this in right where that medallion sheeting is. I can go kind of back and forth and make a nice bulbous type thorax there. I really like the look of that. And then my final material is a partridge feather. So in these partridge feathers, you're only going to use 20% of this feather. You want to get rid of all that fuzzy stuff on the bottom of the feather here. And this is what we're going to use for our legs. So once I have that feather stripped, I'm going to come in with my scissors, and I'm actually going to cut a notch in the very top of that feather, like so. Just a little V. Now in that V, I'm going to face it straight down on top of the fly, and I'm going to kind of pinch that feather on both sides of that thorax I just tied in. Sometimes it helps if you wet those a little bit. And I'm going to do a nice big loose wrap and just get that feather anchored. So I've done that, I can come through and cut the rest of that partridge feather off of there. You can look down it, and don't worry if this is like kind of shooting everywhere and really bushy. Again, we want this to be a really buggy fly, but that's nice. Both each set of legs is split off the side of the fly. Now I'm going to take this medallion sheeting and I'm going to wrap it over the back towards the eye of the hook. I'm going to do one loose wrap to capture, a second wrap to capture, then I'm going to do a couple wraps in front of it. Come in with some scissors, get rid of the rest of that medallion sheeting, and then I'm going to cover up anything on that head and make this look nice and smooth, just with some wraps. Once I've done that, I can kind of examine the fly, make sure it looks good. It does. I like to come in here and do a couple like 3-turn whip finishes just to make sure I have a good secure finish there to that fly. Oop. Again, this is a super, super buggy fly. That ostrich throughout the body looks just like the gills on a real mayfly nymph. It undulates, those legs move. This is just a very dynamic fly. You can fish this on the static, or I like to fish it on the strip, the mid strip, or slowly crawling this fly. So this is Shane Stalcup's Gilled Nymph. Thank you everybody for joining us for this tying edition of Bug of the Month, the callibaetis. Hopefully you like the Gilled Nymph. Practice it, tie it, fish it. It will bring you success. If you have any questions about this fly or anything that we do here in the shop, feel free to come by and ask any of our staff or drop a comment below. Until next time, we'll see you.